Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Welcome to Andrews Academy Alumni Weekend. And we're glad that you're here today. Glad that some of you have traveled from long ways. Some of you might be looking at me and saying, is that Forrest Magessa? Yes, that's Forrest Magessa. I'm class of 97, so the class of 96 is here as one of their honor years, and so many others, but some of you might recognize me from back in the days. As I mentioned, we welcome all that have traveled far and near. I ran into a classmate the other day that has been working here and haven't seen them for 24 years, and they've been working at Harding's, and I was like, are you in the neighborhood? And we haven't seen each other for a long time. So, and those that are near, that have lived right here, we welcome you to Andrews Academy. We welcome alumni from the periods of the early 1900s, during the time of Emmanuel Missionary College Academy. We welcome alumni from the periods of 1960 forward, during the Andrews University Academy. And we welcome alumni from the periods of 1978 to currently at Andrews Academy. About 150 years later, from the early days of Battle Creek College, where Goodloe Harper Bell taught the children of James and Ellen White, God has been with the Academy through all this time. One of my famous books is the books of Joshua. And Joshua, if you remember, took over after Moses died. And I gave the promise to Moses, I will continue the same promise with you and your people. In Joshua 1:9, it says, have I commanded you, be strong, be of good courage, and do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That same God is the same God of the present. He has led the Academy through the beginning and continues to guide us today in the present. He continues to be here, and for each one of us, those that came through this building, those that came through the building on campus, Bell Hall, those that might have just been here for one semester or for all 4 years, God has been there for you. And he continues to be there ministering to our spirits. This morning, as we reflect our tributes from the different classes, we recognize alumni and former faculty. We also look forward to that ultimate homecoming weekend where we will see everyone in heaven. And I want to just let the class of 2011, if any of you are here, that they just lost one of their classmates last week, that homecoming in heaven will be extra special. Bow your heads with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we'd like to invite your presence to be here with us today as we lift your name and honor you in music and tributes. We thank you for giving us a courage and always being there for us. We invite you to enter our hearts as we reflect on the past. May others see your glory in your name. Amen. The program will continue as printed, and it will not be announced. And so we, again, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for the prelude, and enjoy the weekend.
I'm very grateful this morning, and I want to share my gratitude with you around 4 items. I have about a minute apiece on each item. First area that I'm exceedingly grateful for from my time at the Academy is learning about health and fitness. I read a book when I was here. I think it was from my Bible teacher, Joe Engelmeyer, or my PE teacher, Mr. Newberry. It's called Come Alive, and it was about aerobic exercise. I read the book, and immediately I started running a mile a day. And I learned a basic foundation about health and fitness. And I practiced that all my life. I never stopped exercising since I've been 14. I'm 63 now. I run, I cycle, I swim. And I'm exceedingly grateful. I felt I was living in Dubai and I fell down and had to have an MRI of my heart. And so they did the MRI. The cardiologist came back and he said, "Hey, you don't have any worries about cholesterol because you have very, very little in your arteries." It just put a big smile, just put a really big smile of gratitude on my heart. And so my question myself is, how valuable is that lesson? Second thing I'm thankful for and grateful for is discipline. When I was here at the Academy, I majored in being disciplined. I mean a lot of discipline. I knew the principal on a first name weekly basis. We had a close relationship together, and I did. I received a lot of discipline because I had an emotional wound and I had a relational wound I didn't even know I had. And so I was angry, and so I was disciplined a lot. And I learned something from that. I learned to persevere through hardship. I learned to, when you're in trouble, to always tell the truth. It's the fastest way out. Tell the truth. And then I also learned that when you hit hardship, you keep going. You don't run away from it. You keep going. And from that simple lesson, I've gone through a lot of things in my life, really hard things, but I didn't run away. Went through it. And it's also given me compassion for people that are facing great difficulties in this life. And so I'm thankful for the endurance that I learned from being disciplined. I learned it at a very early age. Some people my age don't know that. Thirdly, I'm really, really grateful for learning to write and being exposed to literature. My English teacher, Rhoda Wills, taught me that to access the five senses when you write. I was exposed to imaginary literature that stimulated my imagination and grew my imagination. And little did I know that in my life journey, I had no idea that I would be writing all the time. Other people would turn to me to write things down. It also gave me a thirst for reading and learning. How much is that worth? How valuable is that? And the fourth thing that is the most valuable thing that I've taken from the Academy is I was introduced to the gospel. I was introduced to a relationship with Jesus, though I really didn't understand it very well. I was trying to put it together, but I had a personal relationship with the principal, and I had a personal relationship with my Bible teacher. They worked entirely differently in what we talked about. But with my Bible teacher, we were talking about things like life, what does life mean, life, destiny, purpose in life, and then about Jesus, and especially about his grace, his forgiveness. I went to, lastly, time's up, I'm sorry. I went to a week of prayer at the Academy, but it was at the university, and Morris Venden came and spoke, and I was exposed to righteousness by faith. I was introduced to righteousness by faith. And this is the most valuable thing, relationship in my life, is righteousness by faith in Jesus Christ and to be filled by the Holy Spirit. How much is that worth? So I'm thinking about, I've reflected on many times what I learned here and what I figured out I learned years later that I learned here. And I know this about life, and you know this about life, that that money follows values. It's always been that way. Money is only a vehicle. And I'm not making an offering call. I'm giving to the Worthy Student Fund. Out of my gratitude, I want to know the joy of giving back. I want to know that joy because I know there's joy in giving. Some of you don't know that even at this age. I realize that. I'm not talking to you. I want to know the joy of giving back. And so I want to put it on your mind. Some of you are giving already. There's needs here at the Academy. How valuable was it to you in what you learned while you were here? And if it's valuable, how much of a give back does that call for out of your life? What does that say about, I'm thinking about my estate and will, my financial planner, and conversations about that, of investing treasure, not just a few dollars, but treasure into this school, because what I learned when I was very young, that has served me very well in my life. Thank you.
Deep river, don't we long to go over Jordan? Don't we long for that day when the final reunion will be gathered together in God's kingdom? I have the privilege today of making a friend of mine quite uncomfortable, and that's Mr. Cleon White, because he would much rather have the attention on someone else. But this is your time, Mr. White. I want to share with you some thoughts in addition to the tremendous tribute that was written. I hope you've all read it in your program. I'm going to ask Mr. White to come up in a moment, but first let him sit there with his usual humility. Here's what some of his colleagues and former students have said. Arnie Chua said, "Mr. White is unflappable. No matter what a student or colleague may have done, he will always treat you with dignity and respect." So, of course, I would go and knock on his front door at 6 o'clock in the morning in Hong Kong just to say hi. A former student said, "Mr. White was always kind and patient, taking things in his stride. There's a quiet strength and faithful service about him, and we always knew that he cared about us as individuals." Another teaching colleague wrote, "What I appreciate about Cleon was his quiet, consistent, Christ-centered leadership. His dedication to be always willing to help students and teachers succeed, his encouragement and positive spirit, his practical approach to things as exemplified by his wearing the white tennis shoes." You may hear that more than once. His willingness to always listen. As a principal, he would never ask anyone to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself. Pastor Gary Burns wrote the following to me last evening. "As I reflect on my years of service as a chaplain at Andrews Academy, I'm convinced that my friend Cleon White taught me more than I was ever able to teach the students. I describe him as a man of joy. He always had an encouraging word to lift our spirits when we faced the challenge, whether student, colleague, or parent. Bless you, my friend and colleague." Another experienced teacher wrote the following. "The first qualities that come to my mind when I think of Cleon White are integrity and wisdom. In every organization, there are official leaders and unofficial leaders. Cleon has been both. I think students as well as fellow teachers respect him for the quality to be the official leader or the unofficial influencer. And let me add to that. Cleon understands the difference between power and influence. You see, power is diminished when it's shared. The more power you give away, the less you have. Influence is just the opposite. Leadership by influence expands and extends. Power works by division. Influence works by multiplication. Cleon White knows his math. His influence has impacted thousands of lives. I remember my first year of teaching in this institution, I was struggling to meet the expectations that were left by my predecessor. And I walked down to Cleon's classroom to talk to him. He was in that famous white coat and white tennis shoes. And he listened, as he always did, as I stumbled along. And finally, he just looked and he said, "Glenn, be yourself." Now, I'm convinced that's not always good advice to give people. I needed to be a little better than myself. But he understood. He understood that it's important not to try to be what you're not. It starts with being authentic. Being better than you are comes with, first of all, being who you are. And that's Cleon White. And as a faculty member leaned over to me in faculty meeting one time and said, "When I grow up, I want to be like Cleon White." I'm still hoping for that. Carol Turk wrote, "Cleon's character is best known by how he treated students and everyone else. He expected much, and he did all in his power to help each student succeed. He is a steadfast, solid source of quiet wisdom. He cares for people." In capital letters, someone else wrote, "Honest, kind, and always willing to listen. Cleon White cared for his students deeply and wore the best-looking tennis shoes. Now, I must tell you that I had to tell people to limit their remarks. And many of them were upset about that. They said, we could go on and on and on. You can't just expect a few sentences from us. Leadership involves courage, wisdom, and integrity. The strength of character to at the one point be cooperative and yet not sell out to compromise and popularity. The wisdom to know when to speak and when to be silent as needed. Integrity, so lacking in our world today, it seems. There will always be conflicts around us. But integrity says that by God's grace, there should be minimal conflict within us. Internal dissonance is debilitating. Integrity is essential. When I think of Cleon White, I think of a steady, faithful spirit, a long walk in the same direction, a life of faith that is a marathon, not merely a 50-yard dash to the finish line. Our society has a short attention span. God calls us to consider the question, will there be Adventist to Andrews Academy if time should last? Are we treasuring the past and are we building for the long-term future? Faithful service with eternity in view, integrity in service. If you read the wonderful description here, you'll notice the call of God early in his life. He committed his life to being a Seventh-day Adventist Christian who lived his faith no matter where he was, no matter where in the world. The greatest power to change the world, I'm convinced, is a loving and lovable Christian home. But second to that is the power of a seventh Christian education. Faith must be renewed by teaching each generation to know Jesus. And so, at this time, I invite Mr. White to come forward. There is a plaque here that I failed to bring up, so as he comes, I'm going to grab it, and I want to honor and dedicate this Teacher's Legacy of the Year to Mr. Cleon White. Thank you for your influence in our lives. Thank you for your faithful service.
Sorry about the lack of tennis shoes. Tomorrow.
Congratulations once again. Thank you for your friendship, your service, and your ministry for God.
Just say this, that while I was here, faculty, staff, students impacted my life. And I just hope that they impacted it in such a way that when Jesus calls, I'll be in the right camp.
I'm not finished with Mr. White yet. Hello, loved ones. My name is Joelle Ashley. I'm from the class of 1988. I am here to share with you an exciting program that we have been doing for quite a long time that Mr. White is very familiar with. And so as an expert witness here, he's going to share with you some things about this program. It's the Partnering for Eternity program. Older adults in the community so that the students can assist them with house and yard work around, once a week for a couple of hours. And in return, they learn such valuable life lessons, skills. They develop civic responsibility, and they also learn the joy of serving others, like Jesus did. In addition, they receive a scholarship of $800 per semester, 70% of which is paid for by a grant. So the PFE legacy at AA has been long, but before we talk about that, I want to share with you a quick clip.
This is Ashley. She just learned to ride a bike without her training wheels. This is Finn. He's a good boy. And this is Lois. Ashley can tell that she's lonely. If only there was a way to make her smile.
Ashley.
Like suds. Or gardening.
Now dig a hole right here. Good.
Maybe remembering the good old days.
This is my husband, my son, my daughter, and that is me.
Wow, you look so beautiful.
Solving long division.
Good. Now carry the one.
Or sewing all the memories together.
What are you guys doing? We're sewing a pillowcase.
Perhaps sharing the teenage days.
I loved him. I really, really cared about him.
Or even better, the once-in-a-lifetime days. That would make her smile.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Sometimes lonely people just need a surprising buddy.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
In 1978, Ashley began visiting Lois, who would soon after become her lifelong mentor, planting the concept for partnering for eternity. Thanks to Ashley, PFE has invested over $10 million into Seventh-day Adventist education. Over 700,000 hours have been spent growing intergenerational relationships, and countless lifelong friendships are being created.
For 6 years, I've been trying to get Mr. White to be a mentor in my program. This year, I finally got Mrs. White on the phone, and she gave a swift yes. I don't know what that's about. But let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so we have some other AA celebrity faculty that are also mentors in the program. You can see Rhoda Wills, we have Jim and Delana McKee have a student, and we just signed up Tom and Gwen Baker. So super excited. We have actually 26 students, and they are assisting approximately a total of 47 different people in the community. So, Mr. White, I think this is your student, helper, Nathan. It looks like on the one picture he did some power washing for you. Is that right? And then what's the story behind the mailbox?
I've really had trouble with that mailbox. Every time I went out to get the mail, it was always wet mail. Now, I don't know why, but I said, Nathan, we're going to replace that old one with a brand new one. He put those numbers on that mailbox and put it down where the old one was. The old one's gone, and I haven't seen a wet piece of mail since.
Amen. Amen. So you played another special role in PFE at Andrews Academy. Weren't you instrumental in bringing the program to the academy?
Well, I don't know if I was instrumental. I played a small role. There was a fellow by the name of Dr. Kurt Vanderwall. Do I have his last name right? Okay. He said, you ought to see if you can get this program running. That was back in, not 1907, but in 2007. So we spent a whole year kind of manipulating that and working on it. And finally, I guess it was in 2008 that it was kind of launched.
Okay. And through the years, how have you seen the program evolve?
Well, I was only with it for 4. And during those 4 years, I didn't have enough intelligence to make it work like Joelle makes it work. I mean, she's made it look like heaven in relation to what I had. So it sort of worked with some graduate students that came over from the university, and they kind of did their share, and I kind of looked at it askance, and I said, good, just keep working it. And finally, when I left and Joel came on, it came from that very small beginning to really a very, very good program at this point.
Well, thank you, sir. It's been a joy and a pleasure to work with the program. I just wanted to slip through some of those slides for this so that you could see some of our students working currently. Really, our program is about, thank you, sir, is about serving others with the gifts God has given us. And, this is part of what I do to give back to the Academy, because like Greg, I had a wonderful experience. I'm not sure I experienced quite as much discipline as he did, but probably not, right? So, but I did have a wonderful experience here, and now once I had moved back to the area, I was looking for ways to minister and to use whatever gift God would use from me, and this is the way that I've done it. There are ways that you can help us out. So I mentioned that we are subsidized by a grant for 70% of these students' scholarship. I mentioned that they receive $800 per semester for about, it comes to about over $22 an hour for the amount of time that they put in. So it's a really nice scholarship. This year, our goal is $12,500. That's our 30% obligation to make the program work this year. So by raising this amount, we will offset tuition costs for these 26 kids by $41,600. So this program is a win-win-win program for students, school, community, all the way around. You can use this QR code. It's also in your weekend program. If you flip over to, I think it's opportunities for giving. In there, there's page 17. This QR code is also there. But if you prefer, you can write a check, give it to any Academy faculty here that you see, make it out to the Academy, but put PFE in the memo line, or just mail it to our address, which is there. This is what we do, and we want you to share in that blessing with us by giving today for students who are willing to work for their tuition needs and to serve as Jesus served. Thank you so, so much. And have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
We're hurrying. Good morning, I'm Judy Novak. I'm a dental hygienist in this community, and this is my husband, David Novak. He's a biochemistry professor at Andrews University. We represent two different aspects of the Andrews Academy experience. I graduated in the class of 1976, and David taught science and math classes here from 1979 to 1984. I didn't attend classes in this building. David's first year of teaching was the first full school year here in this building. My class at Andrews Academy was the last class that was a part of the junior high experience at the lab school. That was grades 7 to 9. And when we were in 9th grade, in the afternoon, we were bussed over to Bell Hall to attend afternoon classes, yes. And then when we were in 10th grade, both the 9th and 10th graders moved over to the Andrews Academy Bell Hall. At that time, there were actually about 400 students. And that is exactly why Andrews Academy needed its own building. And reflecting over my experiences here at Andrews Academy, I appreciated weeks of prayer, the spiritual foundation that I received there. And some that stood out in my mind, one was when the Heritage Singers actually came. I don't know if you remember that, Greg. Anyway, they came and they held a week of prayer for us where they gave us all autographed books of The Desire of Ages, which I have done a lot of reading and underlining even to this day. But also Bible camps and leadership retreats were great highlights. During our senior year, a 15-year-old sophomore student, Galen Velting, was killed in an automobile accident. And that was really hard. He was coming home from school, or leaving school, going to his home in Benton Harbor, and his sister was driving, and he was killed. And this experience really taught us, it was traumatizing, actually, and to lose such a creative, fun-loving friend. And I appreciated how the faculty hugged us. They cried with us, and they prayed with us as we processed through that loss. We were so blessed to have a wonderful, God-focused, caring faculty that provided us a loving family experience.
Well, Amy, I'm here to speak about the spiritual experience and the effect of faculty, and I'm grateful for that. Although I must admit, I'm sort of living. I'm just a small cog in Cleon White's world because I don't know if you noticed the gap of employment between 79 and 84. That was me. Okay, so. He hired me just to hold his place while he helped with his father, and when that was over, bye, Dave. No, I went to grad school, but I mean, God's timing of it was really quite spectacular, and I'm just so grateful to God for Cleon and his influence in my life as well. But the faculty here, we had a responsibility to mentor students in the spiritual growth and life that they had. And honestly, I think one of the primary means to that was treating students fairly and with a sense of integrity. I know that when students have felt that, I've heard this from students just recently, that they felt that perhaps maybe it's a misunderstanding or something, that he felt that they were misunderstood or unfairly treated here by one of the academy teachers, fair or not. That really affected their spiritual life. And so being a quality teacher, having a caring influence, listening, just as a professional, had a tremendous impact in their spiritual growth and their belief and their connection with the church. Another way was, of course, whenever we have these spiritual activities and things that happened outside of the classroom were also important for that. And the connections that faculty made with students in social occasions and in spiritual events. I know that I remember in 1980, must be 83, Don Starlin, and whom I'll talk about in a second. Don Starlin, I think, wrote a play for a part of a week of spiritual emphasis. And one day he was working on that. He walked into my classroom and he said, "Mr. Novak, can you build a bomb?" And I said, "Sure." Yeah, he said, "I need to blow up the world." And I said, okay, just tell me when and I'll move to the moon. And so he said, "No, I'm writing a little play for the end of the week of spiritual emphasis, and I need to destroy the world and as the last thing." And I said, "Okay." And so he built this paper mache. We tested it. So we went down to to Mr. Anderson's place. I said, "I need some acetylene and oxygen," and he said, "You do?" And he said, "Yeah, I want to build a bomb." Okay, okay. I mean, that was then, right? I mean, it was then. You're a chemist. That's all you do. So. We get this big balloon. It's like a weather balloon. It's really thick, and we blow it with acetylene oxygen. We test it, and it detonates quite nicely. And then he said, "Okay, I'll make that same balloon, and then I'll build a paper mache world around it." And okay, and so fine. The play happens. The place is packed. I'm nervous because I'm just nervous. I don't want to watch this. I don't. So I'm actually in the office pacing, and Miss Christoffel is, why are you here? You should be in there. I go, no, I don't want to be in there. And so the play ends, and boom! I mean, I hear it out and I'm going, oh, that was way too big. And I see people, it's the last thing, and so they're staggering out of this area, and they're all marveling, and they're trying to hear each other, And so some of them come to, found this fragment all the way in the back of the auditorium from this thing that went off. And so I think it made an impression on the people that the world was ending, but it influenced me. And so in part, Don Starlin and I really grew close together because of our work doing that and other things. He's a good guy. And just as an aside, Don is facing some serious health challenges. And if you would, in your prayers, pray for him. But it was those kind of relationships, both inside and outside of class, that really is the foundation for the spiritual growth that students and faculty both are gain from coming here to Andrews Academy.
As an Academy senior, I stood on this very stage on behalf of Adventist Youth for Better Living and railed against the evils of caffeine. 40 years later, I'm here today not to excoriate a substance that stimulates the body, but to celebrate a man who has devoted his career to stimulating minds, hearts, and imaginations as part of a life of ministry with a capital M. That man is Ray Tates. Strategic thinker, innovative and provocative communicator, educator, publisher, youth pastor, producer, entrepreneur, creative writer, father of two amazing adult children, both Andrews University graduates, husband to the incomparable former Rosie Wills. Yes, she's the daughter of our longtime English teacher. She's also with us here today, Mrs. Rhoda Wills. Not least of all, Ray has been spiritual advisor and great friend to many. This is a man who has worn so many hats, it's a wonder he was never nicknamed Stetson. So we're delighted today to honor Ray Tates, a member of the class of 1971, as Andrews Academy Alumnus of the Year. Ray's official bio is in the program, and I encourage everyone to read it, but I'm going to speak from the heart today and share some personal perspective on why we are here celebrating Ray. Let's start with the criteria for an Andrews Academy Alumnus of the Year. The nominee's life must align with the school philosophy. We all know it well. To restore in man the image of the maker is the object of education. As well, the award recipient must think deeply, live fully, serve unselfishly, honor God completely. For a man who cannot be defined by boxes, Ray Tates most certainly checks every one of those, and he has throughout his life. Let's briefly visit Ray's Andrews Academy roots with a few photos. Do we have the photos available?
Oh, geez.
Here's the studious Mr. Tates as a freshman in the fall of 1968, as well, leading out in Sabbath school. And here we see Ray as a sophomore, already editor of the Sanjo, which portended his storied future career in communications. Ray was already regarded as a natural-born leader as a student here. When his father accepted a call to Fresno Academy in 1969, I'm told it was a serious blow to classmates who wondered, who's going to be around to tell us what to do? Class of 1971, where are you? Congratulations, it looks like you muddled through. And Ray had a leader's voice. As Rosie stood nervously in the hall on her first day of the school, later to be named for Ruth Murdoch, whose voice did she hear booming out of one of the 7th grade classrooms? None other than the man whose voice she'd hear every day for 47 years and counting, following their 1974 wedding. And folks, this becomes an even more quintessentially Andrews Academy love story. Ray and Rosie's very first date was to the Shide Poke in 1968. Professionally, Ray has had an enormous influence within the Adventist Church. One of his longest tenured colleagues and dear friend, Alberto Valenzuela, has this to say. I have known and worked with Ray for more than 35 years. What impresses me the most about him is his ability to assess a situation and identify a particularly innovative solution. I can't count how many times Ray has advanced initiatives that seem too extravagant, perhaps impossible, to bring to life, but bring them to life he did. Just a couple of highlights. Ray conceived of the Global Mission Initiative in conjunction with the General Conference. Ray was the inspiration for the Hope Channel, and also conceived of ADRA's Global Village, which generated international media coverage. For Ray, ministry is about more than leading. It's about connecting with people's lives and helping inspire other leaders to communicate, perhaps in unexpected and new ways to benefit the lives of others, to find fresh, new ways to introduce people or to strengthen existing relationships with God. Ray has excelled in every role he has taken on. He started out as a pastor, Bible teacher, and youth teacher in Southern California in 1977, before accepting a call to ADRA in Silver Spring, a role many still consider to be Ray's most important contribution to the Adventist Church and its ministry. Ralph Watts, the ADRA president who brought Ray aboard in 1986, joyfully recalls giving Ray just 2 directives on his first day as part of the team. And Ray, I'm sure you remember this. Number 1, make ADRA a household name in the Adventist Church. Now, bear in mind, ADRA had just been started in 1985. And number 2, find donors. We don't have any. I need you to change that. Go get to work. According to Ralph, quick study hardly begins to describe Ray. Although he was not trained as a fundraiser, Ray soon drafted an amazing appeal letter that generated a great response, exceeding expectations. He also began producing powerful videos. The first ADRA's World Shoot took place in Bolivia under his direction. But here's where it gets good. ADRA was facing extremely difficult financial circumstances, staring down millions of dollars of debt, even struggling to meet payroll, when Ralph hired Ray. It took a couple of years, but Ray's ingenuity helped pull ADRA onto solid financial footing. Are all of you familiar with Heifer International and others that allow you to buy a goat or a cow and provide food for a child or family? My friend Ray pioneered that with the ADRA gift catalog. During the decade that Ray served on the ADRA team, the organization went from a small religious organization to a leading international NGO. Fast forward to 2015. Ray accepted the opportunity to lead communications for the Pacific Union Conference. Ironically, Ray and I had not previously met through our respective memberships in the Andrews Academy family. Instead, it was around this time that I was blessed to finally meet Ray Tates at the Society of Adventist Communicators Convention. Ray attended a panel discussion that I participated on and afterwards summoned me over. It felt like a scene out of Mean Girls, except Ray wasn't, particularly mean nor a girl. But I knew that if I was in with Ray, I was golden. There are too many tributes from people who know and revere Ray for the time I'm allowed, but let me just share a few. Ray's colleague, Connie Vanderman Jeffrey, highlighted yet another example of Ray's innovative communication skills. In 2017, Ray conceived of a weekly video blog to be called All God's People. Asked Connie to host it. She didn't see how it would be possible, but 4 years, 5 seasons, and 225 episodes later, All God's People is still thriving thanks to Ray's vision, passion, and drive. Noeline Johnson commented on Ray's generosity of spirit, his constant willingness to support the cause rather than protect his own turf. That's just Ray all the way, she said, open and friendly with a true understanding of grace. He doesn't just accept it, he passes it on. Noeline's husband, William Johnson, many of you know, beloved longtime editor of the Adventist Review, saluted Ray's work. One of the many projects on which Ray and I worked together was a 60-minute film on the church in Africa. It was shot on location, it broke new ground, and it won a national award for documentaries. After Ray joined the Pacific Union to guide its communications, he and I were reunited in a delightful manner. Ray spearheaded efforts to launch a new publishing venture, Oak and Acorn. I was honored to author its very first release. And while speaking of great writers, Ray, our friend Becky de Oliveira, who helped sand the rough edges off my dissertation here this morning, sends her heartfelt congratulations. And one last tribute from Pacific Union Conference President Brad Newton. I want to offer my congratulations to my friend and colleague, Ray Tates, on this wonderful recognition. Over the years that we have worked together, I have known him to be the kind of visionary leader in the work of God that makes a difference in so many different arenas of ministry. Of even greater importance to me is his friendship and the time that we can have meaningful conversations that always give me more to think about when we part company. Ray, from one Adventist communicator to another, I tip my Stetson to you on your impressive and impactful career. And thank you as well, Rosie, for your own incredible professional contributions, including polishing up Ray's work now and again. Finally, Ray, from one Andrews Academy graduate to another, in fact, on behalf of all Andrews Academy graduates everywhere, thank you for the hearts, minds, and imaginations you stimulate in the name of ministry, and congratulations on becoming Andrews Academy Alumnus of the Year 2021.
Thank you, Greg, class of 1981. And good morning, everyone. I'm so happy I can be with you virtually this morning. I think Greg's enthusiasm for Andrews Academy is matched only by Rhoda Wills, my much esteemed mother-in-law, who is the biggest Andrews Academy fan that I know. I'm humbled and amazed to be named Alumnus of the Year for 2021. It means a great deal to me. This was a surprise for which I can only say thank you. I think that it was in about 6th grade with Miss Margarita Ross that I became aware that each of us had a permanent record to which deeds and misdeeds were added and would never be forgotten. This has been a matter of some concern to me for a long time. And I'm hoping that whoever it is that keeps these records is making note of this moment and that perhaps it will even things up a bit. Seriously, however, thank you. This is very much appreciated. I want to pay tribute to the class of 1971, my colleagues, my cohort. I hope you'll join me in remembering with fondness those from our little band who are no longer with us. Our class is famous for twins, and the Bevan twins were the source of more boyhood joy and misadventures than anyone else in my life. I can hardly believe that they're gone. One of the most cherished and sacred possessions in our home is a photo of that very first date I had with Rosie Wills. It was taken at the Shide Poke of 1968 by one Reger C. Smith Jr. Sonny, what a loss. Ruthie Glenn McPherson stood up with us at PMC for our wedding, my wife's dearest and best loved friend. We miss her every day. I was so sad when Arthur Cronky died. I know that we all were. There are so many losses, and these are some that have impacted Rosie and me. I'm sure you have your own list. It was here at Andrews Academy that I got to be a part of this great group who meant so much to us over the years, and I'm grateful. Thank you, Andrews Academy, for giving Rosie Wills a job as a hall monitor in 1968. It totally changed my life. We celebrated our 47th anniversary this summer, the most important benefit to me of marrying back into this class. We've had a wonderful journey together, a lifelong love affair that started right here at Andrews Academy, and I'm grateful. Thank you, Andrews Academy, for Charlene Vetrano. I really wish I had paid better attention in typing class, since it's the one skill I use absolutely every day. I think that most people in our class for typing one, that was the very first year that electric typewriters were available. And she only had a few of those for us to practice on. I think they were IBM Selectrics. I was in a very small class for typing, and so we all got to learn on electric. I remember asking her about learning on a mechanical typewriter, and she said, I could if I wanted, but that she didn't think they'd be around for much longer. She then suggested that I'd better focus my limited attention on the new electric keyboard and count my blessings. Thank you, Mrs. Vetrano. It was an early lesson in not looking back, but always looking forward. And it was the acquisition of a key resource that has had a very big impact on my life. I typed these remarks with skills I learned in a typing class at Andrews Academy, and I'm grateful. Thank you, Andrews Academy, for the legendary Miss Edith Davis. I can say with no hesitation whatsoever that no teacher had a greater impact on my life than Miss Davis. In my freshman year, Miss Davis saw something in me that I didn't see. She saw that I could write. Believe me when I tell you that I gave her precious little evidence upon which to base this assessment. Whatever it was enough. She became my most important mentor and instructor. Writers write, she declared with conviction, and she encouraged me to write. The result is the mainstay of my professional life for more than 50 years. Miss Davis was the first person to speak to me the words of Robert Browning's, that a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for. She was talking about the limits of my writing skills and how much I had to learn. But that phrase has guided me through my entire life. And it is not hard for me to hear her voice in my head speaking those words to me at just the right moment. Andrews Academy gave me a great education through incredible teachers and singular influencers like Miss Edith Davis, and I'm grateful. You'll forgive me if I skip the obligatory biblical reference in closing, although I happily affirm that the faith that was cultivated in my life by this institution is and will always be my spiritual home. Edith Davis was not unknown to recite poetry on occasion, and one of the poets that she taught me to love was A.E. Housman. If we were fortunate enough to have lunch together today and reflecting on what a weekend like this means to all of us these many years after our graduations, maybe it would be Housman that she would recite to us. So I will do it for her as a tribute to this institution, to all the faculty and staff who have served it so well, and for the alumni that we are fortunate to be numbered amongst. Into my heart on air that kills, from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went and cannot come again. Thank you very much.
Academy family, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here this morning. I'm Lindy Rosado Gonzalez, class of 96.
And I'm Michelle Kaufman Harris, and we are here to honor our friend Jody. As class of 1996 Alumnus of the Year, Jody truly embodied all that Andrews Academy stands for. Think deeply, live fully, serve unselfishly, and trust God completely. We want to thank our friend and classmate Katie Widener-Shaw for nominating Jody for this award.
Jody joined our class in our junior year. Jody and Katie actually arrived as the new girls to our class that school year. They became fast friends. Jody came from Louisville, Kentucky, and while at first we're like, oh, she's kind of the quiet one, that didn't last long. She was so easy to be around. She just exuded this infectious joy. She was a kind person, a lot of humor. She was very energetic, and she had this megawatt smile that would just light up a room. And she entertained us with all of her antics. She was the best impressionist, and she had all these accents and voices and would just break out into spontaneous song. And she would greet you with a hello, darling. And, you know, she was just one of those magnetic type of personalities, but in the most humble, kind, and just lovely way about her, never at anyone's expense. And she just showed kindness to everyone. It was no surprise that in our senior year, for the superlatives, she was voted most humorous. And during her time here, her short time at Andrews Academy, she had a gorgeous voice. She was in our silhouettes and women's chorus. She went on trips. She went to Bogenhofen with the German class group. And it just wasn't unusual to see her antics in the hallway with us and spicing life up with her impressions of classical movies and musicals.
For instance, why should we have a boring greeting on our voicemail at Andrews University when we were roommates when you could sing it to a song from Phantom of the Opera? Music, writing, and literature were her passions. Her mischievous smile and outrageous comments could change anyone's mood. We loved all her quirks, including her extensive collection of frog paraphernalia and stuffed animals.
While Jody had so many of these amazing qualities, what truly made her shine was the inner love she had in her heart for Jesus, and to see that exude out of her to others around her. She truly knew in her short 21 years of her life what it was to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. She experienced his love, and that became an expression of his love through her to others. During her junior year at Andrews University, she followed in her older brother's footsteps and eventual sister-in-law, to serve as a missionary in Taiwan. She selflessly gave of her youth and her time to teach others and in Taiwan.
Jody fell in love with those that she met in Taiwan. She grew to love teaching. She especially enjoyed giving Bible studies for her students. And in an email she sent me a month prior to her passing, she described an experience where she was outside of a temple, where she was witnessing individuals, demon-possessed men, cutting themselves to, channel inner gods. She wrote that it impacted her as she first saw firsthand Satan's work and the great controversy over human souls. At 21, she had the spiritual maturity to recognize that, and it brought her closer to God.
In her email to Michelle, she truly expressed the joy she found in teaching the Bible to others. She said, "You never understand more your beliefs and appreciate them more than when you spend time teaching them to others." We had many wonderful teachers here at the Academy, and that included many of our Bible teachers, Pastor Russell. And it was just a pleasure to know her and to know that although she was just 21, she got to experience life to the fullest, and she experienced it in a way that was selfless. She always maintained her humor. She talked in her email to Michelle about riding for the first time on the back of a bicycle, and her fellow colleague was driving the bike, and she was on the back of the wheel, and her knees sticking out because she was a little tall. So these two white women down Taiwan in a very busy street, just weaving through traffic and having the time of her life, and she just did a lot in her 21 short years here. While she was tragically taken in that bus accident from this earth, her impact and her testimony can be felt 25 years later. She had an impact on my life, being one of the first times I experienced loss on this earth, on Michelle's life, on all her friends, and many others who eventually gave their hearts to Jesus because of who she was, her example. She had a humble heart, service for God and toward humankind. And I just can't wait for that resurrection morning in heaven. I have no doubt that she will once again raise her beautiful voice in praise to God And he will announce, "Well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of your master." And I pray that we can all be there for that moment.
Jody's parents, Ken and Donna Stout, are here to accept this award, and we ask them that they come up. We just want to thank you for sharing the gift of Jody with us.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle and Lindy. That was phenomenal. Our hearts are moved. Thank you all. You first and fellow students in the 96 class. It means so much to us, but to all of you who are here and part of the alumni service today, thank you for remembering our sweet Jody. We miss her so much. But praise God, we have a great hope. Amen. More than that, we have a great assurance. We, with Jody, await that great heavenly reunion. This is a great reunion today for Andrews Academy. It's just wonderful to be here and be part of it. The atmosphere of camaraderie and love and remembrance is just fantastic. But that heavenly reunion for Andrews Academy and for all of us as Christian believers is going to be such a fantastic day. And you know what? We believe, Don and I believe very much that that's going to be soon. That reunion is coming up very quickly. World events show us, right? I'm going to preach a sermon about it. You guys all know, you folks know, you fellow believers know that that's true. Jesus is coming soon. So we can't wait to see Jody again. And we have such great memories. Did you want to say a word?
No, it's been said what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so many wonderful things were said. I would like to just say one thing. When we went to, it took us a year to be able to really emotionally be prepared to go to Taiwan, but we felt we needed to go to Taiwan where she had lost her life in that bus accident. We went there and we went to the church service, and they dedicated the service to us. It was just phenomenal. And the thing is, her students, most of whom were Buddhist, invited us out to a big banquet. And so we went to this lovely banquet, right? Mm-hmm. And they brought gifts. It was this long table filled with wonderful food, and these folks gathered around, and one after another gave her a little testimony about Jody and what Jody had meant to her. And of course, we remember what Jody had said in your story about how the people were flagellating themselves. And Jody wrote home to us too and said, you know, Mom and Dad, these people need Jesus so much. They need Jesus. They think they're flagellating themselves and somehow trying to gain favor to their God. And they need Jesus. And she referred to her excitement about being able to share Jesus Christ with them and give them hope beyond what they did not have. But anyway, there was one man that stood up and he said, you know what? He said, Jody, I saw this young blonde-haired girl come and minister to us, and we loved her so much. And she was killed in that tragic accident. And he made the statement, he said, Jody died for us. This is a Buddhist now. Jody died for us. And that touched our hearts so much. And we're so thankful for our sweet Jody. God blessed us to have the 21 years that we had with her. But she loved Andrews Academy. She had a fantastic experience here. And her fellow students like Michelle and Lindy and Katie Widmer Shaw, who you mentioned, had sort of submitted, I guess, Jody as Alumnus of the Year. Thank you very much, Katie and Andy back in Colorado. But so just thank you so much. We're so honored and thankful, and it gives us great courage that she is remembered and loved, and may we gather together soon in Jesus.
The values that Jody embraced started here at Andrews Academy. And she went on to the university, and by the time she was a junior, she said, Mom and Dad, I want to do something for the Lord. I want to get out there and do something. I'm here in class, and I'm learning a lot of things, but I want to be a worker. So that is in her junior years when she decided to go to Taiwan and spread the good news of Jesus to the people there. So thank you, Andrews Academy and Andrews University.
Class of 96.
Class of 96, yes. Thank you. Isn't it great that we can be all together again after 2 years? I've missed you, alumni. Well, my pleasure today is to introduce the golden 50-year class of 1971. I'm very happy to do this because I was here then, and also 2 of my family, Ray and Rosie, are members of this class of 1971. The other thing is, isn't the yearbook wonderful for refreshing our memories? I found there were 72 members in this class, and their class president was Reger Smith Jr. And they chose as their aim, reach up, then out. And their motto was peace to God and peace to our brothers. They had a class song to it. It was the Isaac Watts hymn, and the words were, "O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter in the stormy blast, and our eternal home." And we're going to sing that song in the 11 o'clock service. The class had 2 sponsors, Miss Edith Davis, who taught English, and Mr. Farrell Gilliland, who taught history. Now, since we didn't have this nice building in those days, we met over in Bell Hall on the campus. And they called us Andrews University Academy. Now, I was also privileged to know this class when they were sophomores, because in 1969, that was my first year of teaching here at the Academy. And actually, before they were sophomores, I knew one member. I knew Rosie. I met her in the delivery room at a hospital in Oregon. And on that very same day, Judy Ashton was born here in Michigan.
and they became friends later. So, from sophomore through senior years, we all met together with Miss Edith Davis and studied English. We had good times and we had hard times, but we praised God for the learning that He taught us, for the lessons. Also, we praised Him for the humorous times that we had. That I know that I will tell you a few funny things that make me laugh every time I think of them. I was shopping at Schrader's one afternoon, and a mother of a 1971 girl came up to me and said, "Would you please not make my daughter stand on her head? It makes her dizzy." Then she saw the startled look on my face, and she said, "Oh, you aren't the PE teacher?" I said, "No, I'm new here. I teach English, and we hardly ever stand on our heads in that class." Another thing that I will never forget are the 1971 boys who often hid my keys from me, but they would hide them in hard-to-reach places so that I couldn't get them. But do you know how I got them to stop? I told them I was going to read their poems out loud in class. So the pictures in the yearbooks remind us, they stir up memories in our minds of the teachers we had, the students, the classmates, and the experiences that we had in the traditional events of Academy. I've heard mention of school picnic, of Spirit Week, of Talent Night, and we have weeks of prayer in our memory, and we have Bible camp at Asable. And of course, there are others. There were the sports and the health classes that were so important to some of you. And you know, in a Christian school, the spiritual life characterizes the overall mission of education, doesn't it? It helps prepare young people to love God and to serve Him in whatever occupation that they choose. And so we honor the Golden Class today and their advisors. Some of them are sleeping in Jesus. We miss them, and we're looking forward to the day when we will see them again. And some of the class are living on other places on the planet, but their hearts are joined with us today, some in Zoom, and all of us today who are here. Join this class in the prayerful words of their hymn. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, be thou our guide while life shall last and our eternal home. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to invite the class of 1971, those that are here, to come to the front, just here. And we have a small gift and the Andrews Academy medallion for you. So if you just come up. Thank you. And probably a picture will be taken too, so just smile.
Well, along with the recognition that's just been given, we want to recognize the rest of you that are out there. Sometimes it's hard to see you with the blinding headlights in our eyes, but that's all right. As long as you are recognized, that's the important thing. So we're going to do a little roll call. If you know of some that are out in the commons that need to be this way, you can invite them in because we want to recognize them as well. Those who graduated from here or were from the class of in the 1940s, is there anyone in that class of the 40s or before that would stand or wave their hand or that type of thing? I know some years there have been, but I fail to recognize that those years keep going by more and more. So maybe there is no more, at least not today. Not here, but we recognize them anyway.
And now let's move to the 1950s. And for the 1950s, let's see those who graduated or attended the 1950s, please. If you would stand. Is there anyone here?
All right. And especially we recognize the honor class of 1956. Please remember there will be pictures taken with all of these honor classes according to the schedule in your program.
I don't think there would be any parents of those graduates in the 50s, but we will want to recognize the parents as we go through this as well, or faculty, friends, that type of thing. Let's move next to the 1960s and the honor class of 1961. Would they stand? Oh, good. And because we are recognizing dual honor classes this year, the class of 1966, I guess it would be, will they stand? Yeah. Now, anyone else who graduated in that decade, would you also stand? Oh, good. Parents, faculty, friends of those people, would they stand from that decade? They're probably too bashful to.
All right, let's move to the 1970s. And since the class of 1971 has already practiced standing, we'd like you to do that one more time. The honor class of 1971. Congratulations. And if you'll remain standing, let's also ask the honor class of 1976 to stand with them. 1976. Congratulations. We're glad you're here. And then all those who were faculty, parents, or attendees during the 1970s, if you would please stand and join them. All right. Very good.
Well, we had nearly half of everybody here standing. That's good, but we do move to the 1980s. And let's see. Let's go first to the 1981. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And then the class of 1986, if you will join them. Then everyone else in the 1980s that are parents, faculty, friends of those folks. Wonderful.
And we would like to thank you for standing. Please be seated. We would like to take a moment to just recognize the loss of Rob Orison, class of 1988 at this time as well. Let's move to the 1990s. And the class of 1991. If you're here with us, please stand. All right, very good. You brought your guitar, Greg. All right, excellent. And anyone else from the class of 91? The class of 1996 honor class. There we go. All right. And all the rest who attended during the 1990s or who were faculty, parents, or colleagues in the 1990s. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Now that was the old millennium. We now move to the new one. The zeros. I don't know why when we get to a new millennium it becomes zero. But anyway, those of the class of 2001, will you stand? That's kind of what I figured. Class of 2006. Well, let's find out if anyone who was a faculty member, friend, parent, or alumnus during that decade, would they stand? All right. We've got a few faithful ones.
And now moving into the 2010 to 2020, the class of 2011, anyone here from that group? All right, very good. Picture and all, very nice. And 2016, very good, welcome. And all others in the 2010 to 2020, students, alumni, friends, colleagues, teachers. We're going to keep our faculty standing in many cases here. That's great. All right, thank you so much.
Well, as the class of 1921, I think they graduated here a few months ago.
2021.
2021?
Yeah.
2000?
Yeah.
What is that? Well, whatever it is, the ones that graduated a few months ago.
It's a math thing.
Yeah, I know. Are they here? Anybody that just graduated? Oh, look
Oh,
at
very
that.
good.
All right, good. Now, there probably are those who will be graduating from here at some point. All right, we just hope. Is there anybody in the room that hasn't had a chance to stand yet? Well, we'd like to have that opportunity.
Thank you so much for coming, and may this be a blessed experience together. Thank you to Andrews Academy, administration, and staff for making this possible.
Please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your many blessings and for giving us this opportunity to be here in person this weekend, sharing memories and stories from the past. We know that Andrews Academy is your school, and we ask that you continue to bless it as we seek to inspire our students to think deeply, live fully, serve unselfishly, and honor God completely. Please help us all to be a part of the heavenly reunion someday soon. Amen.